Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in with me today. Listen, have you ever thought about how today, more than ever, we've got gyms popping up left and right? We've got yoga studios. We've got the bar method. All right. We've got ninja training facilities. All right. We've got so many different things. We've got an immense amount of diet books, right? Cookbooks. Now more than ever, it's just a plethora of options to choose from. Yet there's a parallel with the greatest time of struggle, with disease, with obesity happening at the same time. How is this even possible? We've got access to so much, and yet we've accomplished as a society so little. And today we're going to address that. We're going to talk about what's really going on behind the scenes, because I'll tell you right now, one of the big pieces is we're missing the right information. You know, there's so much access to information, but there are some pieces missing, right? Together, all of us are trying to put together our own unique puzzle, right? To create our own lives. And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever done a puzzle and you're missing that one piece. It's so annoying, right? It hurts your heart. Like this one piece is somewhere and maybe they didn't put it in the box, or maybe one of your kids ran off with it. Whatever the case might be, you want that puzzle piece because it completes everything. All right, and today we're talking about puzzle pieces. So we're going to be talking about strength. We're going to be talking about mobility. We're going to talk about body transformation. All right, one of the top people in the game. Before we do that, I want to give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Onnit.com, because this is where I met this guy. Onnit's not only a powerhouse of nutrition and fitness, but it's a hub of game-changing individuals. You know, they've got some of the top athletes in the world training there. They've got access to some of the greatest minds in sport and in fitness and in nutrition, all just hanging out there at Onnit. Big shout out to those guys down in Austin. And so this is where I met this individual. But the reason that I fell in love with Onnit, and I would tell people this, if I was to create a supplement company, they do many of the things that I would do. You know, this is the way that I would go about it. They're using earth-grown nutrients for their supplements. So they're not using synthetic, fricasseed, fried, boiled, steam dried, oiled, extracted methane gas. And I know this stuff sounds maybe a little bit crazy. Like, what is he talking about, methane gas? That's one of the major extraction methods for the common whey protein supplements out there. They're literally using methane. That's explosive stuff. And it's one of the nicknames we used to call whey protein back in the day, is gas and blast. But that's not good. That's not good for you. And so we're getting away from all that. That model is old. Today, we're really tuning into things that are viable. First of all, grown properly, right? Organic, fair trade, all of those things that are really important with sustainability for not just our bodies, but for our planet and for our communities. All right, so check that box. Also, again, earth-grown nutrients, check that box. But also the formulations. This is where they really set themselves apart. Right now, I'm really digging the recovery protein. All right, this features something that I've been using for years and I've been telling people about, which is colostrum. All right, colostrum is one of the most powerful foods known. It might be the perfect food. All right, this has every single amino acid, every essential fatty acid, every single polysaccharide or essential sugar. You probably never heard like essential sugar. I thought sugar's bad. Not polysaccharides. No, this is a whole different category. Polysaccharides actually help to improve cellular communication in your body. And many of the smart drugs and new kind of frontier looking at medicine and treating illnesses are looking at the power that polysaccharides provide. All right. All of that is in the colostrum, which is just one of the great ingredients that's found in the recovery protein. All right. So we've also got the BCAAs, the stuff that you're looking for, you know, little creatines in there. But again, all of this is from earth-grown nutrients. Definitely recommend checking them out. All right, they've got different hemp proteins as well. They've got the Shroom Tech Sport, Shroom Tech Immune that utilize medicinal mushrooms. They've got the Alpha Brain. They've got incredible fitness equipment. Listen, if you're not on it, it's time to get on it. Head over and check them out. It's onnit.com/model. And that's onnit.com/model. And you're going to get 10% off of everything. And on that note, let's get to the iTunes review of the week.
Another 5-star review titled You Leveled Up with Self-Love by Lori Hoy. I have been listening to the Model Health Show for nearly 2 years now. This by far was the best episode. Your raw and real presentation of your journey as a young man instantly spoke to my heart. As an educator, I try to instill in my students the importance of accepting others just as they are and to believe that they have the ability to change the world and how others are viewed. Light-skinned, dark-skinned, female, or whatever label society has deemed representative of a particular group. Your words really affected me today, like on the verge of ugly cry. I believe everyone has a story to share that can help others heal their own wounds. Yours certainly put me in motion to share mine. Thank you for continuing to be a bright spot in my morning, to have others' best interests in mind above and beyond your own. You, my friend, are the real deal. Much love.
Wow, thank you so much for leaving that review for me. Wow, I truly appreciate that. And it really does mean a lot because that episode was very, very important to me personally, and the impact has been crazy. I've never seen a response like that, you know, and we're almost at 300 shows, and we do these master classes. When we do a show, we really create something that's a definitive guide on that subject matter. And a topic like self-love and self-care is complicated because it's not something that's really talked about, you know, in popular media and also just in our culture where it's something that, you know, is often just kind of brushed under the table, you know, and to bring some science behind it and also related to our health and our relationships and all those things, I think it was a great encapsulation of that. And thank you so much for that acknowledgement. Again, it really does mean a lot for me. And everybody, please head over to iTunes and leave me that review if you've yet to do so. It'll just take a few seconds and it would mean the world to me. All right, I appreciate it. And on that note, let's get to our special guest and our topic of the day. Our guest today is the one and only Luka Hocevar. And Luka was born and raised in Slovenia and gives credit to sport, fitness, and coaches in taking his life from the streets to playing basketball from high school to the pros, where he also played in Europe as well as the NBA Summer Pro League. It's a dope story. I can't wait to share it. And this led to a lifelong passion in fitness where over a decade ago, he co-founded Vigor Ground, which is the most successful performance gym in Slovenia. Now, after moving to Seattle, where he's currently at now, Luka had to start from ground zero, working at commercial big box gyms, health clubs, and small gym chains, to starting a garage gym that has become a cult classic in the area now. Man, it's just like, guys, you got to check him out on Instagram. Such an incredible gym. And he grew that, what is known now as Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance, into what it is today. And it's one of the most recognized fitness, performance, and transformation facilities in the U.S., integrating fitness, performance, nutrition coaching, behavior change, physical therapy, a fit bar, and a recovery work all under the same roof. Luka and Vigor Ground have been featured in Men's Health Magazine, Stack Magazine, On It Magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine, Precision Nutrition, as well as CBS, Fox, and King 5 as Seattle's top fitness expert. And I'd like to welcome to the Model Health Show my friend, Luka. What's up, man?
What's going on, brother?
Happy to have you
I'm
here,
so
man.
happy to be here. No, not in the state that I'm in, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first thing I want to put out there for everybody, you are the most traveled human I've ever met. You know, you're not afraid to like hop on a plane, get somewhere, get in person and connect. What was the inspiration? Like, why do you do that? I just want to know, man.
I think you mentioned the word there is connect. You know, and that started, it started a long time ago when I really had this drive to learn. And, even when I was still in Slovenia, we didn't have seminars, we didn't have all this stuff, right? So, I had to either order books or DVDs or whatever. But what I started doing was flying out to places, to London, and, I'd go to a seminar in Newcastle, or I'd fly out to, the US, wherever I could, one, to learn, and two, to connect with the people that were doing the things that I wanted to do and what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So then it kind of became, when I would do that, I started finding out, man, I get so much more from connecting somebody face to face and going there and like learning by doing, versus just, staying where I'm at.
Yeah.
That I got hooked on it. And so that became kind of I would say the catalyst for my travel, combining experiences with education. And I think that's, I think relationships, experiences, education, some of the top three things like you can do for yourself, period. I don't care, what arena you live in or your career is in. I think that's one of the greatest things that you can do. So now it's like every opportunity I get, or if I don't have an opportunity, I create one, I'll make it happen. So I travel a lot because of that.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that about you. I was speaking at an event in Vancouver,
Vancouver, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you just popped up from Seattle to come and hang out with me, and that means a lot, you know. And also, of course, we get the experience, we get to connect, we get to talk about, you know, business and plans and impact and all the stuff that we talk about. And also, you know, like just going to that particular event, you know what I'm saying? It's just like I love that you combine all those together and having education as an underpinning, you know. And I think it's really valuable for people to really like let that sink in, like get yourself in that environment because there are few things that are more powerful than that. And so again, that's why you're here as well in St. Louis with me. I thank you again for coming out to
My
hang out with
pleasure,
me.
man.
So let's talk about your story, man. You know, you shared this with me before, and I was like, man, I had no idea. So Slovenia, like, how did you? Like, first of all, let's just, you know, I want to be real, man. Like,
Yeah.
what were you like? You were into some things, you know, before you actually made the jump and started to get serious about basketball. So
It,
let's
well, it
talk
was
about
it
it.
was kind of parallel actually because I played ball. I was in sports like most of my life, but I started playing basketball like really seriously at 11. Meaning, everyday practice with one of the top teams called Olympia. Like we 5, 6, 7 days a week. You're doing 2.5 hour practices. So that was like from the age of 11. But also like when I was 7, I moved to London. When I came back, when I was 11 years old, and that was like right when the war happened, like post-war. And luckily, Slovenia had a very short stint with the war, whereas Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, and Albania, that was like a lot worse. But so in that time frame, my dad stayed in England. We came back, right? So I have 2 other brothers. I have my mom, and I was pretty much like youngest brother, knucklehead.
Hmm.
Back then they would for sure tell me I'm ADHD. Give me every pill possible. Um, but really, I was just man, I was just always trying to figure stuff out. I was always curious. School. I mean, I'd go to school, but it was one of those things
Yeah.
where I was doing everything else imaginable, and that's what kind of veered me off into some areas that weren't the best, the best for me, should I say. But, looking back now, I don't necessarily, it taught me a lot, right? So, and I got into, first it was smaller things, but it was crime. And that was actually for quite a while, I was involved in that while I was still playing, right? But at a certain point in time, especially because I would say the most involved I started getting was when I was 15, 16 years old, all the way through 18 plus. Um, and that's when I was also, I would say, the best, obviously, at basketball. And so many things started happening that, I went to Eastern Invitational, which is basically in New Jersey, and we went with our team from Slovenia. It was supposed to be this, hey, we're gonna have a great experience, to show you guys how stuff is outside and how it is in the U.S.
Hmm.
And I was pumped about it, but I never had the thought process of I'm gonna move to the U.S. I'm gonna do college in the U.S. Right?
Hmm.
And I had an incredible experience there. And one of the coaches said, "Hey, man, have you ever thought about going to college, in the US?" And I was like, not really. Because my whole thought process was I'm going to go pro. You saw, and this whole time I'm like, I'm going to go pro. But at the same time, I'm also in the streets doing a lot of crazy stuff. And basically, when I got back, that year was very crazy for me in all types of ways. I was playing and practicing the most I ever had. But also, a lot of things started happening on that side of things with, people I knew getting, I would say, let's say arrested or interrogated. I mean, there was just so much stuff going on. A lot of stuff happened to me where I was like, wow, okay, like this is real. This is real. Like what, where do I go from here? My coach in basketball was like, hey, listen, man, I know what you're doing. There's really 2 paths here. You either go this way or you go that way.
Yeah.
One leads to you being able to play ball or go to college, get school. The other one, like, where it's going to go. And I had this big kind of like realization. And so that coach from Eastern Invitational kept following up with me. He said, "Hey, Luka, come up, man. Come up next year. Do another Eastern Invitation with me. Come to Denver, train with me." His name was Wayne Jones. And as those crazy things started happening, I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to go up there and just give it a shot, see what's going on." So I came train with Wayne for 2 weeks, went to Eastern Invitational. I did great. I had no idea how the college circuit works, by the way. I'm like, I'm there in July thinking maybe I can get a scholarship for August, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, that's not going to happen. But there's all these schools that, Quinnipiac, Delaware State, I think Western Michigan, they were like, man, we really like you. We'd actually give you a scholarship, but you're going to have to walk on for a year. These are
Hmm.
like $40,000, $50,000 a year schools.
Right.
And that just wasn't possible. So one of the coaches was like, hey, listen, man, I was a coach and I played up at this school in upstate New York. He's like, you'll play, you can't get a full ride because it's just not, we can't give you a full ride, but you'll play and you can get some money and stuff. And literally I came back August 3rd, um, you know, decided like I'm gonna go to the US. By September 11th, I got all the paperwork. I was flying out, and interesting. So we talked about this.
Yeah.
September 11th of 2001.
Yeah.
My plane was supposed to land 20 minutes after the towers got hit. So I ended up having to land in, we ran out of fuel, landed in Nova Scotia, stayed there for a week in a military camp, then went up to college. So
Wow.
that's kind of like the short. There's,
Yeah.
every one of
just
those.
you coming into America with that at that moment, like that's really symbolic,
It was, yeah, it was definitely a crazy time, crazy transition. And I don't know, it's interesting to, to look back or to reflect back, to always see that every one of the struggles and every part of the resistance gave me lessons and made me
Right.
better and made me stronger. So I think that's, I always share that because your scars, whether, physical, emotional, whatever, are the foundations of what you build on.
Right.
I think a lot of times people hide those things. And for me, I did for a long time. I didn't want to share, that part, like, man, I was in organized crime and I was doing all these different things. But then I started realizing that, man, there's so many, because I started speaking in a lot of inner city schools and doing, we're about to start a scholarship for youth program that helps kids. And when I started sharing the story, so many more people came and talked to me about it because now they're like, oh man, you understand where I'm coming from. Like you get it. And so that started becoming like, hey, I should share more of my story because people will connect and people will understand better.
Yeah.
Versus, I think a lot of people do that. They kind of hide the nasty parts.
Yeah.
The scary and the things that are, oh man, I'm gonna get judged, I'm gonna get persecuted, I'm gonna get, But the truth is like when we overcome that, we just become better, we become stronger, right? And we can connect with others as well. So
Absolutely, man. I mean, I felt the exact same way. I didn't want people to know about where I came from. Even the review that we had this week, like to share kind of my experience, things that I went through even as a kid. That really it gives people permission to really know you, right? It gives people permission to also open up and share the things that they're struggling with. I think that's incredibly valuable, man. And especially kids, like if you can't see it, you can't be it, right?
correct.
So for them to see that example with you, like like a lot of people don't realize you're in many ways a product of your environment. It's like you didn't come out of the womb like, you know what, organized crimes for me, And it's really just a situation where like you're coming from war-torn environment. Like what options do you have, And many kids, like in their own ways, they're in a war-torn environment. It's just a different kind of war. And so having those examples and like seeing your like complete 180 and bringing that value now to people's lives, like, man, you're really impacting a lot of people. I think it's incredible. So let's shift gears now. Let's talk about, I opened the show talking about how there's more gyms than ever. There's more diet books than ever, but we're sicker than ever. Like we're struggling more with our physical health more than ever. So why do you think that is? Like and this is a big question.
This is a big question. And you know what? There's no one, because I don't want to be the guy that's like, well, there's this one thing,
Yeah.
right? But I do want to shine a light on some stuff that I think people are they don't know. Okay, so and don't quote me directly on this because I read so many studies that they're not all in my head completely right, structured out. But in the last, I think since 97, the increase in gym memberships in the U.S. has been 65%. And men train 100% or 100% more active than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And women are about 50, 60% more active than it used to be. Right? Those are pretty serious numbers, right? But when you look at that, obesity has gone right up with it. Cardiovascular health has gone right down. Mental health has gone right down. So we by these statistics, we know that just being more active is not the solution, right? We're actually more active in the U.S. We're more active than pretty much every country in the world. And if you look at, like, Japan has, like, insanely low activity. In the U.S., only 41% of people are not active, while in Japan it's something like 80% or something like that. But their obesity is 5%, and ours is like 31 or 32 or something like that, right? 33. And you look at other countries like Norway, it's very similar. You see this similar thing where now you start going like, okay, there's countries that are less active than we are, but they're healthier, right? They have lower obesity rates. They're healthier in every single way. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that comes across, there's two things that I like to mention, but the first one is the one I don't think that most people really think about is that, we've had this over-exaggeration with, it's kind of like an overreaction to the previous thing. So it went from bodybuilding to functional training to now we're in this era of, high intensity. Like everything's high intensity. We got to crush, we got to go, right? And but even though that there's all this high intensity training and people are more active than ever, there's no results. And why is that? Well, and one of the things is that is recovery. And the whole recovery part is a lot of different things. Obviously, it's sleep, it's mental stress. It's also, how do we training is there's different types of training. There's aerobic training that's like lower intensity. There's super high CNS intense stuff like lifting weights, like sprints, like power, Olympic lifting and things like that. There's bodybuilding that's somewhere in between, right? There's different intensities that you can apply, and people don't understand this that well. So even though you're like, well, but I'm only doing 3-4 days a week of XYZ, why am I not seeing results? So why is this happening? Why is that happening? But you look at our lifestyles, and our stress is higher than ever, right? And stress is such a big impact, has such a big impact on, put it this way, on whether we're anxious. If you're anxious, it can prevent you from sleeping. You don't sleep well, you don't recover as good, right? And the cycle goes on. And so when we look at that, number one is to ask ourselves, is the solution, and of course, I'm in fitness, so I'm the first person to go like, hey, if you're not doing anything, become active and start training. Absolutely. But there's this whole other segment, I would say, of the equation that people are not addressing, and that's recovery. And I know on your show you've had everything from from meditation and from how to recover. I mean, obviously nutrition is part of recovering, stress relief is part of recovering, environments and relationships are part of recovery. I mean, all these different things. But I think that creating awareness around it is very, very important. That more is not better, and we've proven that. And all the research shows that like our body has a finite amount of metabolism that it can build up to. So there's only so many calories that you can burn, right? Period. Like if you do 10,000 steps, 30,000 steps a day isn't necessarily better, right? If you do one workout, it doesn't mean your second workout is going to allow you to eat, that much more amount of food, because we hit a limit. And if you look at how everything is about energy, essentially, to our brain, right? Everything's about energy, and our brain distributes energy in different ways. One is for us to live. So we're talking about, resting metabolic rate, like your lungs to function, your digestive system to function, your brain to function, right? And that's where energy goes first. Then the second part is activity. So when you're training, when you're moving around, but also stress. Stress has a huge amount of energy that it allocates to. Only third, once that's been covered, only third is the brain gonna go like, all right, here's this energy to, rebuild mitochondria, to build muscle, to, put glycogen stores back and stuff like that. So if we're using all of the energy in the activity and like stress region, you never have enough to actually rebuild your body, right? And I think that's such an important factor for people to realize that, if you're having a 14-hour day job, you got 3 kids, you're sleeping 5 hours and they're so, your nutrition's not on point. Like training more, being more active is not gonna help you. And it comes back to that puzzle piece that we talked about, which is, what's the missing puzzle piece? I've had guys that are high-level CEOs, and they're like, man, I'm going 5 days a week and I'm doing this and that. Like I'm more beat up, I'm hurt, this is hurting. We dropped them down to two days a week at the beginning. And they wanted to argue with me and like lose their minds. So I'd bring them in another 2 days a week just to do mobility stuff and just like move around a little bit and get them sweating. Yeah. And in the next, 8 weeks, like things change so much. It's like, how is this possible? But it's because like, there's stimulus and then there's recovery, and there's stimulus and there's recovery. And if there's not enough recovery, the stimulus is going to just wear stuff out, period. And so I think that's one of the big reasons that's proven and backed up by a lot of data. I think the second one is what I'm insanely passionate about sharing, every time I speak, every time I get on somewhere, and that is the part of, behavior change. And to give you an example, right? Like if we sit here and you say, okay, Luka, well, here's one of the things I want to achieve. I want to, get stronger at my deadlift, and I want to get a little bit leaner, and so on and so forth, right? And I presented all the best program in the world, the best nutrition, and I said, here you go, Shawn, here it is, right? I'll check in with you in 12 weeks. And in 12 weeks, I check in with you, and like you maybe did it 30-40% of the time, right? But the best like scientifically proven, the best program was right there in front of you. How come you didn't do it, right? And that's taking, so you say, there's information, and then we want to take the information to integration, and then the integration creates the transformation, right? And behavior change is the key in helping you do the things that you know you need to do,
Yeah.
right? Because right now, every single person in the world, if you ask them, say, hey, listen, what do you want to achieve? I want to lose 30 pounds and get healthier and move better and stuff like that. Okay, well, what's one of the things that you believe that you should do right now that could help you out? What's one thing that you for sure think? Well, I could definitely, and they list a couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, like what's stopping them? So they already know the next step. They don't know all the steps. They know the next step though, right? In nutrition, the person says, well, I got to start drinking more water and eating less processed food. They know the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they do it, right? And that's a very deep, we could go down a rabbit hole of that, right? And we can touch on that for sure in the show if you'd like to. But to me, that's where the magic is, because the best program in the world done 50% of the time doesn't get the results of, a pretty damn good program done 80 to 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And that process for anything that you, like any information that you put out, like for, nutrition, for supplements, for mobility, for movement, for training, for cardio, for mindset, for anything, the person has to do it, right? And that's where the glitch is, and that's why I believe the future of coaching and fitness lies in coaches understanding change psychology and behavior change at really deep levels and how to implement it with clients. Because it's becoming, some people will say, well, that's not your wheelhouse, but absolutely, it's everybody, it's every coach's wheelhouse to understand these things. Why? Because our goal is to help people transform for good. So if that's not in my wheelhouse, I'm doing my client a disservice by not understanding it. Because I'm basically like, oh, I get this, I get that, but what's the bridge?
Yeah,
and like, what's the bridging the gap, right?
Man, I'm thinking about, this is why it's the fitness business, fitness industry, and why there's this revolving door. And I don't think it's necessarily purposeful. It just wasn't taught. Like, we're creating dependency, like for the trainer to continuously, have to step in and try to get you to do the right thing. Then you disappear, then you do it all over again, versus actually helping people with the psychology. Because you just laid it out there. It's like, we know what to do. Everybody knows the basics and like, what's 2 or 3 things that you can do to be healthier, to be more fit. But it's the actual doing part, right? And so we're going to actually circle back. I want to talk about, the stuff that actually really matters with the behavior change. But first, I want to ask you about, just to give something for people that's really tangible, right? What's one thing, just one daily habit that people can implement to help to improve their recovery, to help to improve their performance, to help to improve their health? Just one, for you, one daily habit that people can implement.
One of the things, you could go a lot of different places, but I think that one of the things that's missing that would be humongously beneficial for everybody is let's call it for instance, when you brush your teeth, right, you call it health hygiene. Dental hygiene, right? But I would say let's call it joint hygiene or movement hygiene, right? So it's a daily movement practice. And what I mean by that, now I do this every morning, and I try to get a lot of our clients and whether online or offline, to start doing this. And sometimes it takes a little bit, but when they do, it's just like, the biggest game changer. Now, why? There's so many reasons for why to do this, but think of it this way. When you wake up, we're sitting a lot of the time. Our postures are worse than they've ever been because of the 21st century, computers, TV, sitting, things of that nature. So, when you wake up, imagine, and I hate to go back to the car analogy, but like if your axle is bent and you keep driving on it, what's going to happen, right? The car is going to break down faster. So if you're out of alignment and if your joints are not functioning well, as soon as you wake up, everything that you do that day, right, is going to be basically on a dysfunctional foundation. So if you spent 5, maybe 10 minutes in the morning just working on movement, and, some people call them mobility flows. Some people call it mobility. You can give it whatever name. I think mobility is a great name because mobility essentially means, everybody knows flexibility. Flexibility is like where, how far can I stretch my muscle essentially. But mobility is like how can I control that movement through its full range of motion? Just because I can, kick my leg up as high as possible right now doesn't mean that I can bring it up slowly and then hold it there, right? And that's a passive and active difference between my range of motion. And so imagine that, if a person wakes up and they're tight in the hips and they're doing some mobility for their hips and their shoulders and their upper back, their thoracic spine, which is for most people very rounded and tight. You've started the day with creating quality foundation for your joints, right? And that's a game changer. Now, apart from that, what happens? You're starting to move. You know, dopamine and norepinephrine like get nice in the line, so your brain starts getting more alert, right? We can like even smaller things like that. You're in a better mood. You're more ready to learn. So in the book Spark, it talks about how you're able to take in more information and I would say cognitively you're thinking better after just 5, 10, even 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not start the day something that makes your joints feel better, your body feel better, it makes you more alert, and it creates a better foundation for you to go through the rest of the day. Now, the cool thing about it is if you did that just 4 or 5 days a week, for instance, right? How soon could you start getting rid of some of the nagging injuries that most people have?
Right.
And I mean, 8 out of 10 people that come into our gym have something going on. Nagging shoulder pain, low back pain. I mean, at any point in time, statistics show that 82% of Americans have had low back pain. Right. So, and those things are usually happening because of some things like tight hips, no core activation, like no upper back extension, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, there's a number of different things. All those things can be addressed in a morning ritual that's 5 to 10 minutes. Now, obviously, this is something that you can do before warm-ups when you're training as well, but why not do it early in the morning? Like, put it this way, the ROI is the return on investment for 5 to 10 minutes of your time in the morning. And, you could do like, I'll do it while I'm listening to, a podcast or audio book or something like that. Some doubling up, but the ROI is so massive that if somebody did it for 5 days, instantly it's like, I can't believe I haven't done this my whole life. Right. And it just makes sense from a standpoint of, where we are right now as humans in the 21st century, and we have to, kind of like reverse engineer to getting back to a better place with our bodies and our joint health and everything else.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. So you said, is it movement hygiene or mobility hygiene?
I would call it movement hygiene.
I love that.
Because I thought, this is a great example, right? So one time at the dentist, the dentist said, "Hey, you don't have to floss." And I was like, "Huh?" What? I kind of didn't get it. And I was like, "All right, there's a ... to this." And she was like, "No, you don't have to floss if you don't eat." Right. So it's pretty much like, okay, you floss because you eat, because you're trying to get the food out of your teeth.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. Like, hey, listen, you don't have to move like if you don't sit, you know what I mean? But we sit every day, right? We're mobile every day. And the thing is, sitting is not even bad. Like, people have made sitting to be like this horrible thing. The truth, we've been sitting for hundreds of years, or longer, right?
Yeah, thousands.
But the problem is that we sit, but then we don't move.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So the more you sit, the more you should move. Like, it's kind of like the flossing thing, right? But I always think about, like, I think that for brushing your teeth, everybody is like, oh, of course you got to brush your teeth. But I want to kind of bring some awareness to things like movement hygiene or sleep hygiene, right? Which I mean, you've addressed that obviously with your great book. It's like you got to think about it the same way.
Yeah.
But the foundation of the human body is movement. Like, that's it. Like, if you know what I mean, if you cannot move, you cannot live. We can't do anything, and we don't invest any time and energy into it. And even with the gym and the training, like, most of the time, like, people just come in and it's just like, all right, let's go. Now think about it, right? Whatever you're doing, if your joint health is not good, you're going to build strength on dysfunction, right? Which for a while might be fine, but then at a certain point in time, that's going to break down.
Right.
And
yeah, you just said something too about, so when it boils down to, if you look at biology and life itself, because it's kind of difficult to define what life is, but if we're talking about strictly from a biological perspective, life is movement. That's when life ceases, is when movement ceases, and so it's just like we're acting more dead today, right? We're acting like we're practicing to die, and essentially, and again, sitting is not the problem. It's the fact, it's the habitual sitting and non-movement, right, that go together. And, this is a great, this is the timing. I wanted to have you on the show for this reason. And it's so funny, this movement hygiene is something like just a few days ago, prior to us, this was prior to us, getting this show on the schedule. I told my wife, I was like, every day I'm working out twice, right? And it just sounded crazy. It sounds crazy for me to say it because it's just, for me, it's just, I'm like, what are the things that are most effective? And I'm very much about recovery and all those things. But that movement, for me, framing it as like I'm actually training,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like you got to frame it in a way that works for
That
you.
works for you.
And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
for me, every day having this movement practice is so important because I got caught up, man, myself personally. And, I'm a big provider and teacher for a lot of people, but none of us are perfect. And it was on a recent trip when I just saw you in LA, and I'm going back and forth, got these different events, got this media thing over here. And as you know, in LA, you could be in the car a lot. So I was on planes and then just immediately and then at the end of the day, I'm just toast. And then sitting in the car in traffic and like I was out of sorts, man. Like my body does not like to be stagnant like that. And so I start to have a little issues with my SI joint. When I got back after another flight and then another like recovery day and then, more media. And I made it a dedication, like no matter what, like I'm gonna have to get out that car. I got to take care of myself, if it's, and it's not even like I got to pull over the side of the road and do some Jenga on the side of the road. You know what I'm saying? It's more like, building it into the schedule, right? Like, okay, when I get here, then I'm going to do this first, right? Kind of get myself unglued and organized once I get off the plane, for example.
It's a skill set. I mean, number one, right? Like everything that we talk about, I think part of the issue is that people talk about willpower too much. It's not about willpower. It's about skill power, right? It's about skill sets that we build. And so, doing that becomes a skill set. Like as you do it often enough, you realize how important it is and becomes a skill. So even if you have a long day and you've been working for 16 hours, for me, I'm like, man, I got to get my 5 to 10 minutes at least of loosening up and like working on my mobility drills and like what's stiff right now, right? And as anything, as you do it long enough, you obviously, it becomes more ingrained neurologically and becomes part of us, right? But, I had to go back to, how it started for me, like about 7 years ago, I had a horrible back injury, femoral nerve entrapment. My leg didn't function. I mean, they were talking about surgery. It was really bad. We were talking about months, could barely walk and, slept on the floor, couldn't sleep, but tried to. And I mean, just bad, right? All over. And, after that whole rehab was very, very grueling and tiresome, but I didn't want to, go under the knife. And I rehabbed it basically pretty much 100%. But if you took MRI of my back, it's pretty shady. But I function perfectly fine. I can lift heavy, all these great things. Now here's the kicker, right? You said this. Once I'm on flights a lot, once I'm in a car a lot, things that like busy, not hydrating enough. If the times where I get injured or when I have something tweak is always I can look back and go like, there we go, 3-4 days I didn't do my mobility drills. No, now is that the only factor? No, but
Right.
but for sure, like
important.
it's what keeps me healthy. And people are always saying, man, like how have you been able to do that? And it's like the little things every day, that create the big outcomes, like small hinges, kind of swing big doors. That's kind of my thought process. So you don't have to do an hour and a half of this elaborate flexibility, mobility training once or twice a week. But it's like if you can start building it into your day, 5 to 10 minutes, and start, because the thing is, like when people do it, they go like, wow, I feel so much better, right?
Mm-hmm.
That obviously your brain goes dopamine. I do this, I get this, right? Do it enough, all of a sudden now you're looking forward to the result of it. You're not even, yeah, okay, it's not gonna be as fun doing the drills, but it's like, man, I can't wait to get the result from that. And I think that really is one of the best things that people can do. And of course, I hate to be the person that's like the number one thing, the number one food, that right.
Mm-hmm.
But for the people that we see that start doing that, it makes a significant difference in their lives in every way. I mean, one, it starts your day in a, if you can plan it into your morning, what ends up happening is people get up a little bit earlier, they do that. I always tell, if you got kids, do that before the kids get up, because you'll be in a better mood, so you won't be, you'll have better energy, you won't be as cranky, and so on and so forth. But also, it's like what people end up seeing is that, adding those little 5 to 10 minutes up over time, when they go to their regular training session, they're like, wow, like some of the stuff that was bugging me before, now I'm not having issues with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you do that 6 days a week, that's an hour a week that you ended up adding, right? That's 4 hours a month, and so on and so forth. At the end of the year, you have much better joint health, right?
Let's talk about a couple of those. Like what are some, as far as like movement flossing, basically,
hmm
like two or three of these mobility exercises or drills that people should be implementing ideally.
Okay, so I mean, this is where I'd love to just jump out my chair and just do a whole bunch of
And we
flows.
could even we'll
Uh,
put some links in the show notes
yeah,
for people.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a couple of videos I have that I literally go through, 33 different ones, and people can pick and choose. Um, I think two of the things that are really important to focus on are obviously the hips and upper back.
Yeah.
And to, um, when I talk about these things, it's important to think about stiffness, because people think stiffness is a bad thing. Um, but there's good stiffness and bad stiffness, right? You got stiffness in the core is good, right? Stiffness in the hips, maybe not so good. So loosening up the hips is for sure a great thing. And so, all right, this is actually a kind of a drill that is combines flexibility and breathing. But imagine a lunge position, but like a Bulgarian split squat, where you put your back foot onto either a bench or a chair,
Surface.
something elevated,
Yeah.
and your knee can be on a pad, and then the front foot is pretty much in a lunge position. So in that position, when you squeeze your glutes, it's going to align your pelvis, right? Because a lot of people are anteriorly tilted, have tight hips. So when you squeeze your glutes, you're going to align your pelvis. Now you can engage your core. The key is just to stay really tall. So I always say, think like somebody's pulling you by a string on the crown of your head, right? So your spine gets nice and tall. Now, most people will hold that for time. What I like to do is have people do full exhalations and full inhalation. Now, the reason why is because when you fully exhale, right, when I breathe out until there's no more air in my stomach, what it's doing is it's bringing my rib cage down, and actually it's activating my rectus abdominis, external obliques, like the core muscles, without me thinking about it. The other thing it does, because it puts my pelvis in a neutral position, it actually stretches my hip out the way it's supposed to. Because people do stretches sometimes and they go like, oh, I'm in this position, like I feel it, but they're actually not stretching, right? So their hips might be back. And so I just go for 5 full breaths, exhale fully through the mouth, and then inhale fully through the nose into the diaphragm. So there's a couple of things we're doing there. Like, we're stretching the hips, but we're also working the core. So we're getting rid of some of the bad stiffness, and we're creating some good stiffness, right? And if somebody did that 2-3 times throughout the day and they have issues with their low back, I mean, there's a really good chance you're going to start feeling quite a bit better. Because what are we doing? We're activating glutes, good stiffness. Activating core, good stiffness. Releasing the hip flexor, which is bad stiffness in this case. And then if you can make it a little bit better, you can reach up and over to get a little extra stretch. And that is a great, I would say, drill. Another one is a windmill for the upper back, which is essentially you're lying on your side with one knee bent, kind of across. So you'd be like this on the floor, and then you reach, and you do a windmill all the way.
Okay, so you're lying on your side. Your body is everything is on top of each other, or do you move
Correct.
your leg?
Yeah, so you move. So imagine you're lying to the side, you're on top of each other, but this knee will come up,
Okay.
and then kind of
So
fall.
the leg that's not on the ground is going to come up.
Correct.
And over.
And just kind of like lean there. If
Uh-huh.
you can put it on a foam roller, even better. You don't have to. And so you're looking to the side and you reach out, right? And then you imagine you're trying to put the thumb on the floor and look at it.
So this is the arm that is not touching the floor.
Correct.
gonna
The arms
reach back.
that's not touching the floor. It's like going up and across, and you're looking at. So we're working neck mobility and upper back mobility, right? And same thing. You're exhaling as you come across, and then you just come back. And like I said, we'll put some videos in there for drills, because and why are we doing that? Because one of the stiffest things is our upper back. Like, basically, because we stay here, we're locked into flexion, right? But we want to train that extension and rotation, right? So our low back is very, if you look at how our vertebrae are put together, our lumbar spine only has about 3 degrees of rotation,
Yes.
but
a
our
little.
upper back, thoracic, has 11. So that means that anatomically we're built to rotate through the upper back and not the low back. So if you have tight hips, if you have a tight upper back, guess where you're going to start rotating from? When you throw punches, when you kick a soccer ball, when you're playing tennis, throwing a pitch with your son,
Low back.
your lower back, right? And that's exactly where you're going to start getting pain, tension, and that's how like discs get blown out, right? Like, it's like the best analogy I think for spinal injuries is like this. Give me a credit card. We'll start doing this. It'll be fine until 1,000 to 1. WAP, right? So when you create a lot of flexion, extension, and rotation in the spine, something's going to give and you get disc bulges and disc herniations and things like that. So this is another way, the things that I'm talking about, like morning mobility rituals and doing them with intent. This is another thing that's really important, because you'll see, now on the internet, you get a lot of like, oh, here's this flow and people are just doing it. I'm very big on coaching on intent, not just doing it, but how you do it, right? Really coaching things on the sense of, hey, fully exhale here, create tension. And so people feel and understand what's going on. I'd rather, somebody do 3 or 4 exercises and do them really well than do, 12 and it looks cool on camera, but really we're not, we might be even reinforcing bad movement, right? And so that's the key, is just like anything in life, right? It's not just what you do, it's how you do it.
Absolutely.
And I think that with fitness, building a solid foundation, and with movements, building a solid foundation is more about, how you do it. And it comes along the same thing with nutrition. Like people sometimes want the most complex strategy. And, it's like, hey, listen, make sure you get 30, 40 grams of protein with every meal, right? But it's like, and get really good at that. And I was like, oh, no, can you give me like some carb cycling stuff? Like, no, just get really good at this, right? And then when they do it and they own it, like they see very good results. So I think that that's very, very important when you do these drills, picking 2 or 3 and just getting good at them. And to kind of, I'm going to loop it back a little bit, and hopefully this helps out a lot, because think about this, and the studies show, right? Studies show that if you try to change more than 3 habits at once, right, the success rate is only about 5%. So, if you're a betting man in Vegas, like you're not betting on that, period, right? 2 habits or more, I think is in a 30% range, but 1 is like 85%. Right. So if you know these statistics, and this is over, studies done across a long period of time, backed up by a ton of science, right? And like, if that's the case, why would you try to take on too much? And this is what happens with every New Year's resolution, right? People are like, well, you know what? This year I'm going to go all in. So they're going to do 6 workouts a week. They're going to go on a low carb diet. They're going to do the detox. They're going to do this, that, and the other. Like that's 1,000 changes at once, legitimately, right? So why not pull it back? Right? Why not do less and succeed? Because part of when we talk about behavior changes, you know what it is? It's people feeling confident. How do you build confidence? You win. So if I give you something to do and it's massively complex and you fail, like you feel like a failure. And then the next time around, like, okay, let's try harder this time, right? More willpower. And you give it to you, do it again. And you just don't have the skill set yet. So you keep failing and you start feeling like a failure. But you're not a failure. You're just taking on too much, too fast. So my goal for people is to take on stuff. Let's get some wins in, because once you get in wins, you start going like, man, I did that. Awesome. Great. Let's build on that. After a while, they start feeling confident, like, man, I can do this, and then you can give them more. But once again, if the science, like people think that like going to sleep earlier is one habit, and you're crazy, because. Exactly, because now you got to stop watching TV earlier. You got to change your dinner with the kids earlier. You got to blah, blah, blah. That's like 11 habits, right? So it's not going to take, what they say 21 days. I mean, they're saying, and I think you have Michael Hyatt on his show talking about like the average habit change takes about 67 days and up to 250 days based on the complexity of it. So, why give people something that they're going to fail at, right? If we go into the gym and I say, listen, Shawn, let's get you to lift these 600 pounds off the floor.
Excuse me.
Man, like what? Like right now I can't. All right, go for it. You know what I mean? And like you can have all the willpower in the world, you're not going to get it up, right? And so if I keep giving you that to do, you're not going to be successful, because you're going to start beating yourself up going like, man, I just can't.
Maybe
do this.
550.
Maybe 550. That's why I say 600. But I think, that's a big part of all of these things, right? Same thing with somebody watches a video of somebody that's incredible mover, right? People go like, man, I see you do mobility drills and like you can do crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, start here. Oh, but I want to do what you do. Absolutely. You can do that, but start here. Right? Because when they do it, they're like, oh, successful. You know what I like people to say? Oh, that's too easy. I'm like, great. Then you'll have no problem doing it for the next 2 weeks.
Come on, man. That's what I'm talking.
You know
see,
what I mean?
This goes back to what we started with the behavior change. This is like gold right here, what you're sharing with everybody. Straight up gold. So for folks who are in the business of helping other people, please keep this in mind. And for everybody, please give yourself permission to do that thing that's too easy, right? Get that win under your belt. And by the way, speaking of what you talked about earlier, with it's a difference with doing something and actually doing it right, right? It's not just what you do, but how you do it, right? So everybody poops, man. We got to talk about this really quickly. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And we were talking before the show about the squatty potty.
Yes.
And it's just like there's life before squatty potty and life after squatty potty. And so, do you have the travel squatty?
I do not have the travel squatty. I have the bamboo special edition squatty.
All right.
Now, I was going to actually ask you before the show, is there a travel squatty? Like, how efficient is it in putting?
Listen, I'm going to get you one sent today. It's my gift to you, the travel squatty. You're the most well-traveled man I know. You got to have one. I travel with it, man. And so if people are wondering what this is, so one of our big issues, again, with movement, again, with human design, is we're seeing this huge increase in diverticulosis, hemorrhoids, prolapse, organs getting pushed out of place, constipation, colon cancer, which is directly linked to constipation. It's like a 30% increase. And a lot of it's due to pushing, straining on a conventional toilet when humans are designed, just like if somebody's going camping and they got to poop in the woods, like we're designed to get in that position. And when you're not fully in a resting squat position, we've got this kind of sling around your colon, this puborectalis muscle, and it's kind of like contracted and it's not fully releasing, allowing for you to have a complete bowel movement. And so a lot of people don't even know what that's like unless they have like that 7-Eleven nacho with chili and cheese, and it's explosive, This is from experience, man. I'm gonna share this real quick. So I used to go and get this 7-Eleven nacho with chili and cheese. I would take the chips out in the store because it had the container with the chips in it. I'd take the chips out, put chili and cheese on the bottom, then put the chips on, then put a layer, then put more chips on, put a layer. And so I'd be in so much pain the next day. But why would I keep eating it?
But you still do it.
Here's the thing. So I was like, I'm smart. I'm going to give me a white soda, right? The white soda is supposed to settle your stomach, according to my mom. And so I'd get this with the 7-Up. Man, still, it's like, why would you do something to hurt you? And this is just like we looking for that instant gratification, right? And so anyways, if you're not doing that, I don't recommend it. All right, that's not a model thing to do.
Option B, don't do it.
Just make sure, guys, seriously, this is something that fits right in, slides in and out on your already existing toilet. All the top people in the health and wellness game are utilizing squatty potty, recommending squatty potty, because it puts you in the proper anatomical position. It doesn't make your bathroom look weird or anything like that. And because it was weird when I first found out about this, maybe 10 years ago, it was weird having a cooler that I'd bring into the bathroom and people come in like, you guys got drinks here? But now having the squatty potty is just like total life changer, and it can really, really improve your health. So guys, head over to squattypotty.com/model. That's SQUATTYPOTTY.com/model. You get 15% off everything, all the different squatty potties. Most of them get free delivery as well. So please do yourself a favor. I promise you're going to be so happy that you did it. squattypotty.com/model. Now, man, I want to talk to you about, and this is really kind of putting the icing on the cake here. You've got 7 different parts to implement into every quality training program. So I want to go through these 7. So let's start with number 1.
Okay, so this is basically it's called R7. It's easy to remember, and actually a friend of mine, Mike Robertson, kind of created this phrase, and I love it. And so imagine that, like, even when we do group training and when you do a personal, when you do your own training session, you should have some of this in there. Now, how much of it? It depends. Maybe you're looking to gain more muscle or work more on speed or whatever, right? So imagine if like your training session is like a piece of pie, right? Depending on what you're looking to achieve, you're gonna have a little bit of a different kind of like slice of pie in there. But the number one R in the R7 is called release, right? So that's your soft tissue release. So almost everybody, now how much of that you do, it depends. I try to not have people spend more than 5, 7, 8 minutes on it. But when somebody comes in and trains, like most people are gonna be wound up, right? So there's certain things that you wanna release. Most of the time that's gonna be, your quads, glutes, maybe some hamstrings, for sure upper back, lats. Like lats are massively tight for most people, right? So that's your R1 is release. Because one, think about this, to go back to, we talked about at the beginning, recovery and stress. If anybody's read the book Why Zebras Have Ulcers, which is one of the best books on stress, right, by Sapolsky. And, when back in the day, like zebras, for instance, right, they'd like, whenever you have threat coming. So right now, if, a lion came into this, to the studio, like there's certain things that would happen to you. Like your heart rate would shoot up, your blood pressure would shoot up. You'd actually become more extended, right? Your body would become more extended and your muscles would tone up. It would restrict your range of motion, but it would get you ready to fight or flight, essentially, to run as fast as possible or to fight.
Unless you're DJ Khaled.
Unless you're
then
DJ.
You see the lion. Yes.
Another one. You know what I mean? But and so in that case, and it was made for survival, which is great, right? But think about it, like when the zebra stops running from the lion, if she, if it survives, she's chilling with other zebras. Is like life is good. Stress comes down. Like humans, because we're so conscious, like we worry about everything, right? So we worry about the kids and this and that and the other. So we're constantly in this fight or flight mode, which puts us into, I would say, like in that whole high heart rate, nervous system, CNS is cranked up, fight or flight. So you got people coming in from work, you're training, they're extended, their lats are on. They look like, even if they're not training, they look like they're posing, right? Like, breath is short, they're not breathing normal. So what do we want to do? R1, we're going to release some of that tension in certain muscles. R2 is called a reset. Now, reset, there's two things we want to do in a reset. One, we want to get joints in good positions, right? Aligned. Number two, we want to get the nervous system brought down from that fight or flight to like more neutral, right? To rest and digest. And like, that's why that drill that I mentioned earlier, that was a great drill for like when you're resetting. So stretching the hip flexor and breathing out fully. Because we want to put our body in the best position to train. Because if you come in and you're completely, I would say in fight or flight, all tensed up, you don't have ranges of motion, and now we put you into, training, that might not be the best scenario. That might be a faster way to get you, injured. So we got R1, release, R2 is a reset. And, we can give some links on different exercises to reset. There's a lot of different ways you can do
real quick, too. When you talked about the zebras and how just kind of the release and the reset and thinking about how we would work in a natural setting, with humans as well. Like we would have a situation of fight or flight, but then we turn it off. Today we got this habitual, like
it's on all the time.
So about the book too, it was zebras don't get ulcers. I think you said that zebras get ulcers. So zebras don't
Why
get
zebras
ulcers.
don't get ulcers.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right. Wanted to make sure I didn't get it wrong.
So, and just keep that in mind. It's more than just like, let me hit the gym and put in this 60 minutes. Like that's leading you down. Again, like we've got all these gyms. We've got all of these new inventions, new gadgets, and new training equipment. But if you don't have these foundational pieces, you're going to probably hit it.
And that's why it's so important to, and I'll throw this in real quick, but like, we teach this thing called the success wheel, right? Like where all these different things that will help you, like the wheel moves you forward towards your transformation, right? And it's everything from better movement of your joints, it's building lean body mass and strength, power, conditioning, but then it's also things like obviously nutrition, mindset, stress, relationships, environment, right? They're all spokes on that wheel that help you move forward because, hey, maybe you're in a bunch of environments and relationships that stress you the hell out all the time, right? Changing those probably make you eat better, right? Probably make you be less stressed and so on and so forth. So, how do you help somebody that understands a lot of different things but are in environments that are taking them away from their goals? As a coach, I want to address that or help people give tools or create awareness that makes them go like, maybe I should change some of that, right? So, there's a thing, people say awareness precedes change, which is absolutely true. So some of the best things you can do for people is create awareness. But then an assessment creates awareness, and then awareness precedes change, right? So all these things, like if somebody can become aware of them, that's the first step into helping them change.
Absolutely.
Right? But to get back to
so
our
we got
ours,
three. We're at 3 now.
We're at 3 right now.
Yeah.
3 is readiness. And readiness is just like, imagine that, getting somebody ready for the training session. This is actually where you'd probably do some of the movement drills too. But number one, physiologically, you want to get the core temperature up. You want to get somebody ready to train, right? But then you also want to biomechanically get them ready to train, meaning this is where we do hey, we're going to do some sprints. cool. We probably better open up the hips. We probably better work on some core. We probably better go some, get the nervous system fired up and do some foot fire or high knees or whatever it may be, right? So readiness is where you add some of these drills in that's going to prepare you for the actual training session that you're going to do. So that's our R3.
Got it.
R4 is reactive. Now, people will always say, well, listen, if my goal is fat loss, why the hell would I need to do anything reactive? So reactive is things like sprints, med ball throws, Olympic lifts, anywhere where you're going to be explosive and powerful, right? Now, we do this stuff with 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. And number one, like 1 out of 3 people that fall after 50 years old breaks their hip. 1 out of 3, right? Which means, and the thing is, like when you fall, it's not strength, it's power. You catching yourself, you reacting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I can help somebody not break their hip after they're 50, number one, that's big. Number two, it also, when you do power drills, it contracts a lot of muscle fibers, right? Just as much as if you're doing maximal strength training, right? It just has a huge firing rate. So it's going to help, first of all, it's going to help people perform better. It's going to help people be able to do more when they're doing their circuits for fat loss, right? But listen, I believe everybody's an athlete. And what's the cool thing about it is that when you get somebody that's like didn't think about doing that stuff, and all of a sudden they're throwing a med ball and smashing it hard into the wall, and like you can see the smile on their face, and they're just like, oh man, that felt great.
Yeah.
And you high five them, and now they're like, man, I can do all these things, right? So yeah, it's important for athletes, but it's important for general population too, and reactivity and things like that, because the number one thing we lose with age is actually not strength, it's power. So those are the things that like people, you think are not that important, but like, man, catching yourself, defending yourself, sprinting, running, like stepping off of the side of a curb and being able to, the difference between breaking a leg or an ankle or just having a minor sprain. Those are huge things.
That's crazy, man. Just the other day, it's true story. It's probably like 2 days ago, and my back, still getting sorted out from the travel and all this stuff. So I'm getting there. My son, he decides, and he just recovered from his broken leg. Like, oh, now he wants to play one-on-one basketball. And, full disclosure, I'm never going to let him beat me, And so we were playing around a little bit, and he started, like, hitting shots. And usually, like, if I'm just doing some basic things, like, he's not really going to score on me that much. But now it's, like, looking like, oh, man, he might actually win. So I like, turn up the intensity a little bit. And, man, so, I come back, I'm scoring some points, doing some things. And this lady who works at the gym, she's about to teach a class in there, I guess. And it's just like so random. She starts putting dumbbells like almost like probably 5 feet behind the basketball hoop. And I didn't really see him. And so I come down after hitting a layup, and I literally step on a dumbbell, and like I'm going down. Like, just forget about it. But because like what you're relaying right now, because I fell so gracefully. You know what I'm saying? Like I fell and slid. Like I could have turned into a dance move. You know what I'm saying?
You did the Dwayne Wade.
And it just like it makes sense, because it's just like, man, like that could have been really messed up. But I'm in many ways, like I'm prepared for these random things to happen. And I'm hearing from you, it's training power is one of the things that helps people.
Absolutely. I mean, things like what is agility? Right, is the change of center of gravity. I mean, and there's different ways that we can improve that, but that all fits into reactive. And we do, like, even in our group training, I mean, we put it in there it's almost like we sneak it in there so people work on it, like even in our warm-ups and things like that. And, our clients become more athletic and they're able to deal with life is so much better, and let's be real, like, look, it's just like nutrition. I think that nutrition has to do 3 things, right? It has to improve body composition, health, and performance. Those, like, 3 together. Right? If it just does one, then like, what are we really doing? Right? And so same thing with training. I think for most people, like general population that come, like they want to feel better, they want to move better, they want to perform better, right? And look better as well. So we go with that route.
Yeah.
So
what's next on the
coming
list?
back to R5 is resistance, and that's our strength training.
Yeah.
And once again, we talked about the pie. Are you an athlete that just wants to get stronger and faster, doesn't want to put on weight because you're in the weight category? We're going to change, the way that your resistance training looks like. Somebody wants to put on muscle, somebody wants to lose weight. It's going to be different. But R5 is resistance, and obviously every program needs that, and that's going to be a pretty good chunk of everybody's program. Number 6 is resilience, and resilience really just means cardio, right? Energy systems training, right? So, we talked about where do you put that? Well, I mean, for most people's training sessions, you're going to put that obviously after the strength training. Once again, there's a lot of different energy systems training that you can do, and most people have cardio all wrong. I mean, it's cardio tends to be the thing that people just throw in, like, oh, we're gonna do some cardio.
Hmm.
They don't track it, they don't measure it, they don't understand it because there's different. There's anaerobic and lactic. There's anaerobic. There's aerobic power. There's different types of energy systems that you can train that develop different properties that you may want or not want. Now, and some are great. Like for instance, people talked about slow, steady state cardio in negative ways in the last years, but
Yeah.
it's actually very beneficial for recovery. Like very
Right.
beneficial for recovery. So perfect example. We'll give a cardio. What a cardio workout could be is somebody that's pretty stiff. We'll have them come in for 20, 30 minutes. Just put a timer, 20, 30 minutes, give them a sequence of mobility drills, and they'll just keep doing those for 20, 30 minutes. And they'll get a sweat going. But guess what? In that time frame, that was like really low level cardio. But they'll leave feeling loose and they got some conditioning in. But guess what? It's going to help them recover versus smash them more,
Right.
right? So that's our R6 is resilience. And then the last one is R7 is recovery. Um, and we talked about how the one of the problems is of people not recovering enough. So even in the gym, what does a person usually do, right? They train, I don't know, they do a finisher and they smash themselves, walk right out the door. So you're in full-blown fight, because when you're training, you're in fight or flight. Your body's like, man, I'm in fight or flight. I'm fighting for my life, right? The body doesn't know that you're lifting a weight. It's just thinking resistance, sprinting, like that's what it's thinking.
Hmm.
So when you're done with a training session, most people walk out the door, still in fight or flight, right? Into the car, into traffic, into whatever's going to be going on, right? Well, why not spend 3 to 5 minutes doing some like stretches, some breathing drills, some more foam rolling? And that's what we advise, and that's what we put into our programs, where it's like, hey, go, we have a mobility section upstairs, go upstairs, do some drills. And what ends up happening is multiple people there end up just like conversing, talking, relaxing, and it brings them into rest and digest. And so now because the thing is, the faster I can help you get into recovery mode, the faster you start recovering. But if you leave on a high, that's not necessarily good, because guess what? You're not going to be in recovery mode,
Yeah.
right? So that's R7: release, reset, readiness, reactive, resistance, resilience, and then recovery.
Listen, this is incredibly, incredibly valuable and informative. And man, just thank you so much for sharing it. You know what? I would love because your story is so important, I would love if you would share for everybody, what do you think are 3 important character traits that you've had to develop personally to be successful in this field? Like you're coming from another country. You're coming from a situation where you were involved in, some crime. You're coming from a situation where, you're coming to the States and just trying to figure things out. You're coming from a situation where, you eventually found your passion. You're coming from a situation where you open a gym in the country that you came from, and then opening a gym here in the US and connecting with all of these, like some of the most incredible people in the world, and developing yourself into being one of them. 3 character traits do you think you've had to develop to get you where you are?
That's a tough one, but I think I can knock out these 3. I would say number 1 is resilience. I think of like one of the greatest virtues in life is resilience. It's the thing that takes you from pain to strength. You know what I mean? From I would say challenges to courage. All these, and resilience truly just means taking responsibility for your own life. To be honest with you, but I think if you're resilient, then you can overcome anything, whether it's physical, emotional pain, and all of that. And if you think about how many people get stopped on the way to, let's just call it, success, but from going from where they are to where they want to go, resilience is the missing factor to get them there, right? Because at a certain point in time, you stop, or you quit, or you don't keep going. Number 2, I would say is probably curiosity.
Mm.
And you could say, constant, never-ending improvement, but I'll just call it curiosity, because I'm so curious that like I know more than I've ever known, and I feel dumber than I ever have. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's almost like every time
Mm.
I take the red pill from Morpheus, and you go down a rabbit hole, and you're like, wow, there's so much here, right? And
Right.
and that curiosity keeps me going, because
Love it.
I legitimately, I study like massive amounts. Like it's kind of mind-boggling, and but it's the curiosity that drives me, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not attached to some I got to know it all, because I know I'll never know any. You know what I mean? Like it's such a small speck in the universe, but it's almost like a childlike. oh man, I want to keep learning. This is so amazing, so amazing, right? So that would be number two. And number three, man, I'll say loyalty, but like loyalty, not just to, sometimes people, take this the wrong way. Loyalty to yourself and your own vision, and then obviously loyalty to your family, your teams, your tribe. I think that's so massively important, man, because I've been through enough to where I've messed up a lot of stuff in my life, and when you look back, you're like, man, like if you take away relationships and people, right? I'm talking about the people that are closest to you, the right people. Man, if you take that away, do you really have anything? Like you don't have anything. Like all the stuff that we a lot of times seek, it's so that you can share it. You share experiences, you share things, you share food, you share knowledge, you share like all these different things with people. And to me, loyalty is that. It's like the never forget who you are, where you come from. Never forget like what you're striving for. That's loyalty to your own mission and vision.
Right.
Because so many times, we change because things get hard, we change the goal. But it's like, man, change the strategy. Don't change the goal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Change the approach, but don't change the goal. If something's really meaningful for you. So have loyalty to that. And then just all the right people that surround you. You know what I mean? Like I think that's massively important.
Oh man, super powerful, man. Listen, one final question, man. What is the model that you're here to set with how you live your life personally?
Man, that's a tough question. Okay, let's put it this way. Okay, I feel like life is like seriously, and everybody understand a video game analogy.
Mhm.
I think that life is like a game, and like that our purpose in life is to be the best damn player ever. You know what I mean? Like to get the best as a player. So I think that there's different areas of life, and like we're always just working to become a better player at the game, right? For me, obviously my vehicle is fitness. Now, that's almost like the megaphone. But once you come in through the door, like you understand that like it's all a puzzle piece. It's funny that you said that at the beginning, right? But everybody's got their own puzzle piece that they're building. Man, the thing that I'm great at is putting the puzzles together because there's a lot of things that help. So for me, like I want to help people put their puzzle pieces together to make their own extraordinary life, right? Even and like I said, my megaphone is fitness, but there's a lot of different puzzle pieces to that. So hopefully that answered the question. I could have been
Definitely.
completely off.
I love it, man. No, man. This is just super enlightening, man. I love talking with you. We could do this for hours,
man, easily.
And man, I just really, really respect your hustle. I respect your non-hustle and the recovery, and I respect the fact that like you've created something that didn't exist before, man. With your gym and your community, the way that you handle your business, man, the way that you teach. It's just all just really refreshing, man. And the first time I met you, I haven't ever told you this, but I was asking about a particular skill set on something. It might have been with deadlift. And I was talking to like the head guy, trainer on or whatever. He was like, you need to talk to that guy. And he points over at you, and it's just like the music like was like, who is this guy, And, of course, like you were right there to assist and to answer questions, man. And ever since, man, we've been cool. So thank you so much, bro.
My pleasure, man.
Can you let everybody know where they can connect with you online and also let them know about your gym?
Oh, man. So my gym is in Seattle. Well, it's in Renton. It's about 10 minutes from downtown Seattle. It's called Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance. The site, you can check it out, is vigorgroundfitness.com. So VIGOR, ground, GROUND, fitness.com. And then you can find me on social media, man. I'm on Instagram, Luka Hocevar, LukaHocevar. That's where I'm the most active. Vigor Ground has a Facebook page that's very active, and I put out a ton of videos. So like the mobility stuff, I'm putting out a lot of videos about that. You can also go on YouTube and just put in my name. There's a whole channel. There's hundreds of videos there. Some date back 10 years. I started. It's a long time ago, but you'll definitely get ideas. But hey, hit me up. Like I'd love to, kind of share any resources that you might be looking for.
Perfect, man. I appreciate you immensely, bro.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. I think one of my big takeaways today is this movement hygiene idea. And I don't think it's an accident in the slightest that before I talked with Luka about doing this episode, I made that decision like about working out. For me, it's just like this is an additional workout and I really need this. So even the days that I don't train, lift heavy, that kind of thing, still having my movement practice, my movement workout. And this is different from stretching. Please keep that in mind. Again, it's not the same thing. This is really just working on movement, working on your mobility, your ability to become more physically literate and use your body within space, right? And working on those muscle imbalances because chances are you've got them, all right? I know I definitely still do. I've got some things that I'm working on as well. And it's just that constant, never-ending improvement like Luka talked about. There's always another level. And, these things are essential today, especially the amount of time that we spend sitting in chairs, sitting in car seats, sitting at restaurants like we're about to do because I got to get in some good St. Louis food. But the bottom line is, we've got to have this a counterbalance, something to really ensure that we are able to utilize our bodies, this great gift that we have, in the way that they're designed to be used. All right, because no matter where you are right now, you can improve, you can get to another level. And I just want you to keep that in mind. So if you got a lot of value out of this, make sure to share it out on social media. Of course, you could tag me, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll put Luka's information in the show notes for you as well. We've got some incredible guests and show topics coming up. I can't even believe how crazy it's about to get, guys. So make sure to stay tuned. All right. Have a great day. I appreciate you immensely. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.